Hello, cosmic travelers, and welcome to another episode of Highway to Space. I'm your host, Dan Profir, and today we are embarking on a journey beyond the ordinary, into the dreams, visions, and starlit aspirations of a true space pioneer. Our guest is Lena de Winne, Prime Minister of Asgardia, the space nation. Together, we will explore what fuels one to be part of the first in the world history space nation. How cosmos come into a human life not just with ambition, but with wonder. What do we all dream about when we gaze deep into the skies? How does the vastness of the space inspire unity, purpose, and the belief that we are part of something greater? Join me as we dive into a conversation about transcending borders, finding meaning among the stars, and dreaming of a great space future. This is Highway to Space. Lena de Winne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Lena, you've been with Asgardia since day one. You have held various positions, and since 2020, you are its Prime Minister. What does Asgardia mean to you as a person?
Thank you for putting it into those terms, Dan. It's actually something grand. It's very important to me that Asgardia is so much bigger than all of us. It's a privilege to belong to something which adds another dimension, another meaning, because it brings together people who have the shared meaning, the shared vision of Asgardia, as it was put forward by Dr. Igor Ashubeli, who is the founder and the head of Nation. People who join Asgardia are people who find the values that are brought forward by Asgardia close to their heart. They share these values. And this is how people connect. People connect through shared values. It gives them meaning, it gives them purpose, it gives them something which shines the light, shines the sun onto their life principles, one can say. So for me, the very fact that Asgardia created this enormous platform, which is all over the world, not only all over the globe, it's all over the universe. It offers the place which is everywhere where people feel like-mindedness and connectedness. And that, I think, is the meaning, which is very, very valuable. It's always been for a human because life is about people, but it's particularly meaningful at this day and age when we are somewhat hiding in the artificial intelligence and behind our screens. And this is unique because Asgardia is the first in the world history space digital nation, and yet it brings people together through their shared human personal values, which are bringing them into one. And that's the slogan of Asgardia, the motto, one humanity, one unity.
You say people are choosing to become Asgardians at the moment. But at some point, I would imagine they would have a child in space, but that child will no longer choose to be in space. You know what I mean? It's like the baptism nowadays. Are we forcing people to baptize them as young children? How does it happen when the children will start be born as Asgardians?
Well, Asgardian nationality by the Constitution of Asgardia is a unique space citizenship. It does not constitute dual nationality in the earthly terms. So when a person is born in space to Asgardian parents, of course, their nationality is Asgardian, first of all. But by that time, I'm sure there will be bilateral agreements with various countries that will define how also the nationality of the earthly belonging of the parents applies. But what's, again, universal and it transcends all of us is that being an Asgardian, it's like it is becoming, in a way, another name for being an earthling in this universe.
Asgardia champions human unity. How can space help bringing the entire humanity together?
Uh, at the moment, 20 plus countries have their own national space programs. And naturally, scientists from those countries and citizens of those countries have access to participation, to enjoying the results. But at the same time, it's obvious that space is all around us, it belongs to all of us. And there are brilliant people in every point of the Earth. Asgardia is offering the best minds in the world to join their space research, which is aimed to achieving birth of the first human child in space. That's the mission set forth by Dr. Ashur Bailey as the core technical mission of Asgardia. Its vision is achieving immortality of a human being as a biological species in the universe. Because one day, sooner or later, hopefully much, much later, Earth becomes unlivable. And yet, humans will survive because they will be living in the other places of space, maybe on other planets, maybe on space stations. But ultimately, the very first birth of the first human child will symbolize the fact that humanity will live in the universe forever.
When you dream about space, what is the first image that comes to your mind?
For me, this is about deep space. It's a very dramatic mix of deep blue, deep sky blue, deep purple, with the shades of silver and scattered stars all over the sky. So for me, somehow it's a night sky, but in the shades of science fiction views of galaxies. It's infinite.
Mhm. You mentioned 3 times now unity. How do you believe we can transcend our earthly divisions?
I think that we as a human species are still evolving. We think ourselves to be at the top of the development, but if we realistically look at the mirrors, we maybe tell ourselves that we could do better in ethical terms, in psychological terms, and emotional terms. Our technology is very advanced. I actually wish all of us to evolve in our humane capacity as fast as we evolve technologically. So, human unity for me is one of the definitive vectors which give the feeling, which gives the completion to the entire um, essence of being a human. Because you cannot, as a human being, be alone. A dog alone will grow a dog amongst cats. A human without humans will not grow into a human. So for me, unity is part of the complete story. What actually makes each person a real person, but as a part of a group, and which makes a group of people fulfilled and a group with a purpose because it's made of fulfilled individuals. So unity is something essential to actually for the humanity in its entirety to grow further above its current self.
What does ultimately immortality mean to you, Lena?
For me, immortality is belonging, is the other facet of unity, because we all contribute biologically to each other's life, obviously, but also through collective subconsciousness, through the noosphere, so being connected in intention. So by living my life, by being part of how this life evolves, I'm also leaving my mark. And I have no illusions that nobody will remember me after a couple of hundred of years tops. But that's totally irrelevant because that's the materialistic part of it. What's important is what you put out there above yourself, beyond yourself. Just our conversation now is contributing to immortality, even if it's never watched after it's published and the first inflow of viewers is gone, because we already have said the idea it's a butterfly effect. For me, if you are a butterfly and you just swing your wings once, you already contribute to the formation of the future. And that's for me is rewarding enough for living on this planet.
Mhm. You mentioned earlier we're not, as a human species, we're not perfect. Um, do you think it's still worth the human species procreating in the universe?
Yes, because actually perfection is not synonym to human. There are two ways of interpreting the word perfection and imperfection. What I mean when I say imperfect is that we see our major flaws and major faults. And each of us, honestly, even if we don't admit it to each other, we know where we could do better. But being human means being alive, and being alive means to move, to evolve, to investigate, to pursue, to look for something else. So to do things which ultimately, of course, have space for making an error. So making errors is human. Perfection is not human. What's perfect is a picture can be perfect. It can be fantastically grand, but it's dead. It has the heart of the artist who created it, but it has no soul of her own. It's just a projection of the soul of the creator of the uh, particular artifact. So when I say that we are imperfect, I mean it in the sense that we all know that we can do better. I certainly know that I can do better in many ways. If I would be privileged enough to achieve it in this lifetime is something else, but at least I'm realistic about it. But in terms of us as a species striving towards perfection, it doesn't mean that perfection is a ultimate target. Is the target is to be the better version of yourself. Ultimate perfection, 100% perfection, is a piece of art. It's not human. People don't love each other for being perfect. People love each other for being human.
We start this talk today talking about dreamings and dreams of a future. Um, how do you balance dreaming with action in real life and in achieving the future?
Dreaming is something which keeps you going, something which helps you wake up in the good mood, even if you didn't have enough hours to sleep overnight, because it's something which gives you this very core of life, the very nucleus of life, because it's human to aspire. So dreaming is very important. But of course, you can't be naive after a certain age. You would love to, but you can't afford. It doesn't help. So this dream, if you're a responsible adult, which we're all striving to be, of course, it's something you have to get going and you have to do it yourself. It's already a privilege to be in the circumstances where you have an option to get going, to do it. So, yes, dreaming is important because otherwise it's pointless. But once you dream, you, of course, are yourself responsible to take action. And once the action is going, it's easier. You need to get going.
Lena, if you could send a message into universe, a message in a bottle that will stay there forever, what would it say?
It would be very short but down to the point. It would be the word peace, meaning peace on earth, peace in space, peace everywhere in the universe. And as we know, universe is infinite, so infinite peace.
Nice. What is your, I don't know, biggest dream for humanity in space? How do you envisage that?
I have faith in the future generations who will be by far more evolved psychologically and emotionally and conscientiously and spiritually than we are. And I'm sure they will do better than us.
Hmm, thank you. You've been the Prime Minister of Asgardia, the first space nation. Many people are still raising eyebrows when they hear that space nation, when they hear the name Asgardia. Um, how do you cope? How do you cope with that? With people not taking that seriously? What would make them take that seriously?
It might sound very arrogant, but for me, it's good enough that I take it seriously. It might sound even more arrogant, but I don't take some people seriously, which we live in the free world. It's freedom of consciousness, freedom of opinions, freedom of speech. But jokes aside, at his opening speech on the 12th of October 2016, Dr. Ashwini said exactly about that, that I expect to be called crazy, but that's how new ideas are born. First, people say that you're crazy, then people say, I want to be part of it. And then something becomes so common that everybody claims that I'm one of those who made it work from the very beginning. And I'm living in this paradigm happily because it's exactly what makes sense to me. We work in Asgardia under the guidance and leadership of a massive modern thinker who came up with this idea, the first in the human history. And so for me, is it utopic? In a way, maybe it is. But isn't it how all the great things happening? And some things do not happen in our lifetime. By the way, you might not know, Asgardia was founded on the 12th of October. It's a symbolic date because that's the anniversary of Columbus' voyages. So when at the end of the 15th century, somebody by the name Christopher Columbus sailed off from Spain, hoping to arrive in India, it was paid by what Spanish crown. How many people in Spain at the time knew or cared about it? 10? 100? Where would we be today without the connection between the continents? But somebody had to be the first. I'm sure there would be enough people who would call it crazy, the travelers themselves or the Spanish royalty who funded it. So it's the same. When something is new, of course, it's uncomfortable. And of course, there are questions which are asked, which are closer to your home and closer maybe to somebody's heart. But it's excellent that there are different people in the world who have different interests, different passions, that they care of different things. I can answer you an unasked question. What do you tell people who say that there are hungry children in the world? The budgets of space exploration are 1% of military budgets. So, not exploring space, and I'm talking now national budgets, not exploring space would not save people who at the moment live below our Western standards. But giving up on exploration is giving up on our human soul, on the soul of endeavorers, on the soul of discoverers, on the soul of the people who are the heirs to those who brought us the global world today. So I understand people who don't believe in things, but again, I don't believe in many things either. So it doesn't stop them from working. It's great because it takes different people to make the world, but we are still one humanity, one unity.
And you do what you believe, and along with you, another what 1,100,000 over 1 million people are doing the same, aren't they?
People join Asgardia to become part of the nation. And that's for the first time ever, nation is defined by conscious choice of an adult, of a person who already has his own value system and his knowledge and his belief system. That's also an argument, and the ultimate goal is that Asgardia brings together 150 million people. That's the goal set forth by Dr. Shurbeli. That's 2% of the world population. And indeed, the time will tell. I'm sure the time will tell that we are right. People are born into the nation, into belonging to a family, to a country, to a city, to a religion, to a language, to the cultural heritage. So people do not choose where they grow up because they grow up where they are born and they belong to that nation. In Asgardia, it's the first time ever people unite through their conscious choice into being in one nation. And it's in the Declaration of Unity of Asgardia that these aspects are explicitly set aside, that people join Asgardia because they share the values and the goals, and in no way it takes into account anything to do with their origin. That for me is huge, as a whole new dimension into the definition of nation, and through that, in another angle, another dimension and definition, what is unitedness.
Yeah, and Asgardia gives hope, I think. One of the good reasons to follow a dream.
Everybody has their own reasons. I would not be arrogant enough to tell people what their reason should be. I can tell what my reason is. For me, it's very important that it gives a meaning and a purpose bigger than yourself. Other people can have other meanings and other reasons and other hopes. Some people might just find it fun to hang out with an international community online who care about space exploration. Some others may just find it interesting just to meet people through these means, not just through a regular social network. It does not matter. What matters is that people are drawn by the initial idea. They come in there, they meet like-minded people, and then something shapes further in and keeps people united. Again, we're back to the core word, united.
Thank you very much, Lena. We return from the cosmos inspired, humbled, and dreaming. Lena de Winne, thank you for this, for reminding us that space is not just a frontier, it's a mirror reflecting our greatest potential. As we gaze into the universe, let's remember we are its particles with a purpose, with a meaning, as you said, bound by wonder, driven by unity, one humanity, one unity, which is the motto of Asgardia. Thank you very, very much for your input today.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's a delight and a privilege to be part of this conversation and of the community you're growing around this podcast. I've been watching a lot the production you make, and I'm very proud to be among those distinguished experts who already have spoken to you. So I wish the Asgardia Space Nation Television a lot of luck, and I hope to meet you again.
Thank you for traveling with us on Highway to Space. Subscribe, like, and share the good vibe. Until next time, never stop dreaming and keep looking up.
A blanket of stars, we're setting our sights on worlds near and far. With every conversation, we're breaking new ground. In the heart of exploration, our dreams are profound. From Mars to the cosmos, we'll make our stand, unraveling mysteries with a hopeful hand. We're joined by the dreamers, the pioneers of fate. Together we'll chart what awaits us in space. On the highway to space, we'll soar ever high. With our hearts full of wonder, let's reach for the sky. In this journey together, we're lighting the way. The future of exploring is ours here today. With astronauts guiding and artists in tow, scientists dreaming where the wild comets flow. Each guest tells a story, each voice has a spark, as we forge our path through the shadows and dark. The search for new life and the tales yet untold. In the theater of space, our adventures unfold, inspiring the youth with stars in their eyes. The next generation will claim their own skies. On the highway to space, we'll soar ever high. With our hearts full of wonder, let's reach for the sky. In this journey together, we're lighting the way. The future of